Okay, great. Hey, thanks for joining. I am Goms from Cubensquare. Hopefully, a few of you might be going through this particular call for the first time. So, just for the first timers, so I am Gomes from Cubensquare, and we are into IT training, IT services, IT consultation, corporate trainings, and internship. You can find all our details, either course details or IT services or corporate training, and what we do in internship in our website, including job opportunities and all those things. You can find it. You can find me in LinkedIn, or here you can search for Gomes. You can search as Gomes here, and you'll find me. LinkedIn.com/in Gomes 6000. Okay, you can just go through that, and you can just find me there. And I used to post several technical posters and opportunities as well. And I used to explain how the opportunities are, how the technology requirements are going on. All these things I'll be explaining as a video or blog, and I'll be posting that in my LinkedIn. So this particular session is all about intro towards containers. Okay, why even we are getting into container and intro towards Kubernetes as well. Okay, that is a main purpose of this particular call. It's not about introduction to overall DevOps. That I used to do it in a different session. So when you join as a DevOps engineer, the primary role, what would be your primary role? What are the activities you'll be doing? Okay, all those things will be covered as a part of DevOps training. So in this, if you see this diagram, for example, in a very layman term, what I can say is the developer is responsible to develop a software, and as a DevOps engineer, we are responsible to deploy that, install that on a mobile or laptop or even tab. That's all. So as a DevOps engineer, I am responsible, and I wanted to make sure that the software is running fine without any issues. There must be high availability. There should be scalability, means at any cost, the game should not go down at all. Even if the number of users are increasing to access the game and play around, I need to make sure that I give them the platform which can handle that much amount of load. Right? That is the main intention. Similar way, this diagram, if you see this for an example, even if I am for this, the audience, I would say the audience are totally a newbie. They don't know about IT. They are totally trying to understand what is DevOps for the first time. So for them, this call will really benefit. Okay. So to start with, let's say I am asking my developers to work on a let's say a movie ticket booking website. Okay, our bus booking website. We all used to go and book our bus. I mean, mostly in Red Bus or some other applications, right? Assume that I'm asking to develop an application like that, and they start developing. What the developers do is they build their application. For example, it can be a someone should go on mute. I'm putting you on mute. Okay. I think,
இல்லையா அப்பா இல்லையா
Sita, can you come on mute? If someone has switch off here, you can switch off your video.
என்னடா இப்ப நீங்க திட்டிட்டு இருக்க நான் ஸ்டிக்கர் வைக்க கூடாதுங்க
Yeah, okay. No, I was not talking. I just went to mute on the other system. Yeah, is it audible now, Pavitra? I think Pradeep is audible, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, whatever, I mean, the guys who have joined newly, this particular session is all about the basic intro towards containers and Kubernetes. Okay, the detailed session will be on the actual training, but I'm just giving a intro alone here. I'm not going to talk about the overall DevOps intro and all these things, because I used to explain about what is DevOps and the introduction to DevOps in a different session. Okay, and here the audience, those who are is totally new to DevOps, they are trying to understand what exactly DevOps is. I don't know what DevOps does, or I don't know what container does. So for them, this particular session will be beneficial, and you will be able to understand, okay, this is how it works. Okay, that's what the whole idea is. In that way, you'll be able to make it. Okay, so here in this diagram, what you're seeing is, I have a developer whom I have asked to develop a mobile application and web application for bus ticket booking. Okay, like redbusbooking.com. When I go to redbus.com, I will be able to book the bus from, for example, Chennai to Kanyakumari or Chennai to Bangalore, wherever it is, I can book it, right? When I book it, I will be able to make my payment as well. I'll be able to track where the bus is going. I'll be able to integrate with different APIs and all these things. So for this, now the developer is writing a Java code. After writing a Java code, what usually happens is they use a tool called Maven. Okay, Maven is one of the builder tool to build and compile your application. Whenever a developer is writing a Java application, we need to compile that. Okay, we have to build that. So they use a file called pom.xml and they will build it. So when the developers are building the Java code, we get an output, a binary file with an extension of .var or .jar file. Okay, when they build it using Maven, we used to get an output file with an extension of .jar or var, that is web archive or Java archive. Okay, and after that, the DevOps engineer comes into the picture. What we normally do is we containerize that particular application. Okay, we containerize that and then we push it to a repository and we just deploy it on Kubernetes. Now, what is this? Okay, what if containers are not there? Okay, what if Kubernetes is not there? If Kubernetes was not there, normally what we used to do is, I mean, I would say 6 years back or 7 years back, we were doing this way of traditional way of deployment. Okay, developers will be giving that var file or jar file or er file. We, and when I say we, middleware administrators, they will just download this var or jar file and they will deploy it on a Tomcat application server, which is running on a VM. When I say Tomcat application server, it's one of the application server to handle Java related applications. So when I say deploy, it means that installing the software, that's all. Okay, so what I'll be doing is I'll just go ahead and deploy the var file or jar file in my VM. This is what I have been doing before. But now, after the containers are into the picture, what started happening is we started containerizing that. Every organization for that matter, okay, can be every industry, I would say, can be entertainment industry or OTT platform, or it can be a banking, telecom, health insurance. Everyone started moving their applications from monolith to microservice. Okay, this is a word what you will be hearing everywhere. When I say monolith, probably we can a layman example. I'll put it this way. Okay, assume that you are entering into a old mall. Okay, if you remember, long back we were having Spencer Mall in Chennai. Okay, now that was a very oldest one, and we were calling it as the biggest mall in Chennai initially. But now there are several malls in Chennai and all over the city. But initially, before I would say 10 years or 12 years, Spencer was one of the very big mall in Chennai. Okay, now it is the very smallest one. So assume that you are entering to Spencer Mall in 2006 or 10 and whatever it is. When you enter there, you can see that there are multiple shops and all the shops will be connected to a single electric circuit. There is no separate electric circuit, for an example. So assume that one of the shop is having electric circuit shortage. Okay, there is some shortage in the electric wires. So now the electricians are coming and they're saying that, sir, everyone, we are going to shut down the entire mall. because now we are going to work on this particular shop. So when we are working on this shop, we have to switch off the power on the entire mall. So everyone, please wait for another 3 hours. There will be downtime. This is monolith, wherein I might be having a problem with, for an example, if it's a banking application, I might be having a problem with only fund transfer or payment gateway. Okay, I'm unable to fetch the statement alone. But when I go and fix the issue, I need to bring down the entire application and restart it. That is monolith. When it is microservice, it is like the recent malls. Every shops are totally separated. Every flows are totally separated. When I have a short circuit in a particular shop, I'll just go and fix that shop alone. I'll just tell them that, hey, you're just going to have a downtime for a while. All other shops can function normally. This is microservice. I am trying to fix the issue where it is there, not the other areas. Similar way, if I have a problem with fund transfer in my banking application, I will go and fix that alone. I will be able to take that fund transfer application alone outside. I will fix it and I'll put it inside. At the same time, none of the other applications will be impacted. This is microservices, right? I mean, just to repeat in Tamil, the monolith microservice வந்து எல்லா இடத்துலையும் பேசுறாங்க. இந்த மைக்ரோசர்வீஸ் வந்ததுனால தான் கண்டெய்னரைசேஷன்ங்கிற கான்செப்டுக்கே நம்ம போறோம். ஸோ மோனோலித்துங்கிறது ஒரு பெரிய அப்ளிகேஷன் இருக்குன்னா அதில் ஒரு சின்ன இடத்துல மட்டும் ப்ராப்ளம் வந்திருக்கும். பட் நீங்கள் மொத்த அப்ளிகேஷனை டவுன் பண்ணுற மாதிரி இருக்கும். ஏன்னா இவங்கெல்லாம் வந்து க்ளோஸ்லி பண்டல்டு. எதை ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ணாலும் மொத்தமாக அடிக்கணும். மைக்ரோ சர்வீஸ் வந்ததுக்கு அப்புறமா நமக்கு எப்படி ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா, எதுல ப்ராப்ளம் இருக்கோ அதை மட்டும் நான் ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்றேன், மீதி எதையுமே நான் தொடரணும்னு அவசியம் கிடையாது. அதான் மைக்ரோ சர்வீஸ் அப்படிங்கும். So when the microservices come to the picture, that is where we start containerizing. So what is the benefit from the customer angle? See, when it comes to customers, right, when it is containers, these are very lightweight, and the number of VMs can be reduced, and scalability is very high. For an example, there is an IPL going on, and all of a sudden there is a wickets are going on and Dhoni is coming in. When Dhoni is entering the crease, we all know that how many number of additional users will start watching the TV IPL game, right? So when the load is getting increased, how about the scalability? That is where containers are helping us a lot. With respect to scalability, I no need to bother at all when I'm into containers, and it will be very quick as well, because containers are totally lightweight comparing to the virtual machines. That is why everyone started moving towards containers aspect. Okay, I'll talk about one more example as well. Then Kubernetes. Say, Kubernetes, technically what we tell is we call it as it's a container orchestration tool. That's all. So now coming back, I'll talk about that in a while. Now coming back, as a DevOps engineer, what we are supposed to do is, after the developers are giving us the jar or war file, we are supposed to containerize that, push it to a repository, deploy it on a Kubernetes so that we will be able to visualize the application on the browser. And then Jenkins comes in the place where we wanted to automate the entire process. Okay, here you can see there are 5 different stages, right? Code, build, push repository, and deploy. So if there is no Jenkins, I need to manually cross every stages. If I have Jenkins, if Jenkins is introduced in my environment, then there will be a totally automated way of deployment. This is what every company is asking for it now. Do you know CI/CD pipeline? If CI/CD pipeline is in place, there is no need of manual intervention between all these stages. This is where the DevOps engineers are coming in. Jenkins, they use Jenkins, they use Docker, they use Kubernetes as a platform to deploy the application. Then we have a tool called Ansible. Okay, from DevOps engineer perspective, let's say they're asking us to create 100 VMs or 50 VM virtual machine they're asking us to create. We can use Ansible to provision all those systems automatically. No need of any manual intervention or configuration. Or I'm saying that, can you go and install a software and enable the service and copy a file. I want you to do 3 tasks, but across 500 servers. And those 500 servers are also combination of Windows, Red Hat, Linux, Debian, Fedora, like this different operating system. So when you wanted to install a software, enable a service, and copy a file across 500 different servers, Ansible is the best automation tool to do that. Okay, that also we'll be learning as a part of course. Then finally, the GitHub. GitHub is nothing but when developers are writing a code, when a DevOps engineers are writing a deployment code or Ansible playbook, we put everything on the GitHub. Okay, so this is what we'll be learning, and this is what we'll be doing as a part of DevOps engineer. Okay, on a day-to-day basis. So during the class, I used to explain about several day-to-day activities, what happens in real time exactly, what we do. All these things are covered as a part of the first class. Okay. Now, any questions, guys? Anyone? So far, any questions? Anyone? Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, I'll just move on with this evolution so that you'll understand some more on the container aspect of it. Okay, from the containers perspective. Pavitra, hope it is audible now, right?
Yeah, Goms, it is.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, yeah. So this one, I'm assuming you are totally new to the technologies. I'm just assuming that, and then I have, so that I'm explaining this part as well. Okay, probably I might be having some experienced resources as well here, but I'm just go with this basic so that everyone will be able to understand. So when it comes to traditional architecture, right? Previously, before even containers came into the picture, or Kubernetes came into the picture, or even virtualization came into the picture, we were having traditional architecture. That is, as you see the diagram, assume that there are 3 different guys and they wanted to install 3 different softwares on a server. Or assume that, consider your laptop. They wanted to install this particular softwares in your laptop. That's what I mentioned as hardware. And in your laptop, you have, assume that you have Windows 10 and you wanted to install this. Sorry. We wanted to install Tomcat application server, Super Mario game, and Python application. So if at all, if I wanted to install different softwares, we need to have the respective libraries and dependencies installed. And there will be some certificates requirements as well. Okay. Only when you have the respective libraries and dependencies, we will be able to install the actual software. For an example, let's say Tomcat. Tomcat needs Java. Without Java, you cannot install Tomcat. And then Super Mario. Super Mario is running on top of Tomcat. So without this basic dependency, you cannot install this. Or let's say Ansible. Ansible, you cannot install Ansible without Python. Right? Like this, you need several dependencies first, then you go for this. So I'm just installing all the required dependencies, libraries, then I'm able to install Tomcat, Super Mario, Python. Now everything is running fine. The problem starts when, let's say, Tariq, who is playing Super Mario, he's going for a break. When he goes for a break and comes back, and now he's trying to play again, he is unable to even move the Super Mario game. Okay, it is not even moving. For an example, let's say I'll create a quick container in my local machine. This is my local wherein I'm running as a container. This is not cloud, this is my local. Let it load. It is just pulling the image from the registry. Okay, done. Okay, now I'll just go and check whether my container has been started. Okay, it is up and running. It is Docker Super Mario and the port number is 92. Okay, I'll just go and access. So you can see that now I haven't installed the Super Mario game in my laptop. Instead of installing the Super Mario game on my laptop directly, I have installed the Super Mario game in my container actually. So now this container software, the Super Mario software is actually running inside a container. Now assume that I am playing, I'm going for a break and coming back, and I'm trying to move front and back. Okay, I'm trying to move front and back, but it is not at all moving further. Okay, it is totally stuck. So the reason why the game is stuck is I am not getting the required CPU and memory. See, if at all, if you want the game to be up and running properly, and that too, let's say there are multiple players playing the game, you want sufficient CPU and memory to play the game. So as I went for a break and came in, the others are utilizing that memory. Tomcat consumed some memory and Python also consumed some memory. Now I'll go and ask the other two guys, hey, can you just wait? I'll restart the system. I'm not getting enough CPU and memory. If we restart the system, probably I might get some memory as well. So now what the other two will say, Surya and Sakshi will say that no, you can't restart it because our applications are running fine. So you cannot restart it. You wait until we give a time for you. So if first thing is I'm not getting the expected resources, CPU, memory, and storage, I'm not getting it. Whatever I need, I'm not getting it. The second thing is I'm unable to reboot whenever I want. I'm waiting for their dependency. Then let's say I wanted to upgrade my Java from one version to another. Okay, Tomcat guy is asking. Now the others will say, no, you can't upgrade it because our application will not work. So you are unable to upgrade your dependency also because of the others request that you can't do it. Other codes will not be working. So Norma is asking, hey, can we change the OS to Linux from Windows? They'll say, no, our code will not work for that one, so you cannot change it. If you want, you go and deploy your application in some other server. So whatever I wanted to discuss with others, get the concurrence and make it is like this, right? We are in a joint family. I mean, practically, which is good. Just for an example, I'm considering this, right? So I have a big family, and let's say I wanted to have a, 70-inch TV. Now they'll say, okay, we have to discuss with others as well before changing the TV. Okay, I wanted to change the color of my hall. Can we do it immediately? No, you can't do it. You have to check with others and then do it. So always there is a dependency. So to come out of this, to have an isolated space, that is where we, let's say for an example, we are bringing with a a flat concept, right? So here, ground floor one person, first floor one person, second floor one person, they are getting isolated. They are getting their own space. When you have your own isolated space, now if you want to paint any color, you do it. You wanted to change the TV, that is not going to impact the other, right? Similar way, from the traditional architecture, they started getting into the concept called virtualization. And virtualization is still going on well, but people started migrating from virtualization to containerization. The reason is, see, virtual machine is really good. Okay, consider your same laptop. On top of your laptop, you have Windows. Then you are installing a software called hypervisor. We call it as hypervisor. What is hypervisor? Hypervisor is a software through which I can create multiple virtual machines. Like the way I am having flat an apartment, flat one, flat two, flat three, I will be able to create individual virtual machines, totally isolated space. So now I'll put a OS on a virtual machine, then required library and dependency, I'll put Tomcat. Then for Super Mario, one more VM. Then for Python, one more VM. So now whatever OS they are looking for, I can go and install it. Okay. Now if I wanted to restart the Tomcat VM, I can do it. that will not impact the other two, because you are in a isolated space. But this is where the virtualization started becoming very popular. So whatever issues I was having before, resource dependency, I wanted to change my OS, I wanted to reboot the machine, you can do everything now. That is not going to impact the other. So when this is going on really well, what is the problem? Why are they even trying to move towards containers? The reason is, the first thing is the guest OS. I mentioned as guest OS, right? Nothing but OS. So whenever I create a virtual machine, I have to create a OS also. I have to install OS. And installing this OS, right, it is a bigger headache. Because let's say in your server you are having 100 VMs. It means that you are having 100 OS. When you create a VM, it is mandatory to put a OS also. Whenever you're putting OS, it is a overhead, because that will be consuming lots of resources. Your OS itself will be consuming lots of resources. So only after the consumption of all these resources, you will be able to deploy your application, right? When your OS itself is consuming lots of resources, what about your applications? If you wanted to scale your VM, again, it has to include the OS also. So always, whenever we go for a virtual machine, this guest OS is a headache for us, which is consuming lots of resources, CPU, memory, and storage. Now, another headache for us is, in this diagram, you can see that this is where the containers comes into the picture. Assume that I'm asking Pavitra to develop a gaming software, and she is developing in her own laptop. Okay, and after developing the software, now she is giving me the software and saying that, hey Gomes, you can go ahead and install this software in your machine. So I'm getting the software, I'm installing it in my system, and it's not at all working. Why? Because she developed in a Windows machine. She has installed some, she is having some, let's say Windows 11. She has put some libraries, dependencies, files, and everything she has been using. Only after that, the software has been working fine. But she didn't tell me all those things. She just gave me the software, that's all. Then when I am installing it, I am totally installing it in a different versions. It's not working. Now again, I will call Pavitra and say that, hey Pavitra, there is some issues with the code. Can you check your code? It is not working. She will say that, no, Gomes, everything is running fine in my laptop. Probably whatever server you have configured, there is a problem in that. Now I have to talk with her, and whatever resources and version she is using, I have to use the same. When I use the same versions, OS and everything, then the application works fine. And this is the biggest headache. And every time Pavitra cannot explain me the prerequisite. So now what she decides is, she decides that, okay, going forward, giving the prerequisite, asking, I want this, I want that, I want this file, that file, and he's missing to copy the files, is not at all helping. So now Pavitra decides that she knows what is required for her software, right? Can be a library, can be a dependency, OS, files, whatever it is. She knows what is required for her application. So now she will pack everything as one single package. Now this one single package is like a gulab jamun mix. When you have a gulab jamun mix, what is the advantage? You no need to prepare anything. Just take a bowl, put the gulab jamun mix, and you just eat it. Enjoy the gulab jamun. You no need any prerequisite at all, like a manual doing, right? Similar way, here when I pack it as a single package, it contains her software, that is her base code, her dependencies, libraries, OS, files, whatever she wants. She is packing everything as one single package, and now we call that as a container image. So far we have been calling it as software. Now I will start calling it as a container image. So container images are nothing but a single package which contains everything required for an application to run. ஒரு அப்ளிகேஷன் ரன் ஆகிறதுக்கு என்னெல்லாம் வேணுமோ, என்ன டிபெண்டன்சிலாம் வேணும், என்ன ஓஎஸ் வேணும், என்ன ஃபைல் வேணும், என்ன பேஸ் கோட் வேணும், எல்லாம் சேர்த்து மொத்தமா ஒரு பேக்கேஜா பேக் பண்ணி கொடுக்கிறது தான் கண்டெய்னர் இமேஜ் அப்படின்னு சொல்றோம். Got it? And then when you When you try to, let's say you are downloading a software in your laptop, just by having a software you cannot do it. You have to install the software, you have to run the software. So your runtime is your Windows. Similar way, when she is giving me the container image, now what I have to do is I have to run that container image. That container image needs a runtime actually, only then it will run properly. So that runtime is your container. Got it? Let's repeat again. You have a container image, which is nothing but your application. If you want your application to be running, that needs a runtime, and that runtime is your container. Got it? Now, who will create your containers? Who will manage your containers? So that is being done by the container engine. So your container engines are responsible to create and manage the containers. Okay, that's the logic. Container image is your application. The runtime is your container. Container engine is nothing but it creates and manages a container. Got it? I'll just repeat once in Tamil. ஸோ கண்டெய்னர் இமேஜ் நான் ரெஃபர் பண்ணுறது உங்களோட சாஃப்ட்வேர். பட் இங்கே சாஃப்ட்வேர் மட்டும் இல்லாமல் அந்த சாஃப்ட்வேருக்கு தேவையான எல்லா டிபெண்டன்சி ஃபைல்ஸ் எல்லாம் சேர்த்து மொத்தமாக பேக் பண்ணி வைக்கிறது தான் கண்டெய்னர் இமேஜ்னு சொல்கிறோம். அந்த கண்டெய்னர் இமேஜ் உங்கள் அப்ளிகேஷன் இருந்தால் மட்டும் பத்தாது, அந்த அப்ளிகேஷனை ரன் பண்ணணும். அதை ரன் பண்ணுறதுக்கான ரன் டைமை தான் கண்டெய்னர்ஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறோம். இப்போ யார் கண்டெய்னரை கிரியேட் பண்ணுறா, யார் உங்கள் கண்டெய்னரை மேனேஜ் பண்ணுறா, யார் உங்க கண்டெய்னரை ஸ்டார்ட் எல்லாம் பண்றது, அதை பண்றதுதான் வந்து கண்டெய்னர் இன்ஜின் அப்படிங்கிறோம். ஸோ in the market we have multiple container engines like Docker, Creo, Containerd, Podman, Rocket, and several containers are in the market. Sorry, that is container engines. In that, very famous one was Docker, that is widely used. Got it? So far, are you all able to understand about what is container? So far, are you all able to follow me, everyone? Can you put your thumbs up? Are you able to follow? Any doubts so far? Anyone? You can ask any questions, guys. No issues. I'll take that as no questions so far. If you are unable to follow, let me know. Okay. Fine. So now, Docker is going on really well. Okay, I'm not touch basing on the technical nuances of Docker, which I'll be covering in the actual training. But now you know what is container. Inside your container only your application is running. But when the number of containers are increasing, your Docker will not be able to manage automatically. Okay, it's like let's say all of you are there. When the number of team members are increasing in my team, to manage them, I bring a manager. Why I need a manager? I wanted to manage them. If one person goes on leave, I have to make sure that that task is being completed by another resource. I should be able to do the load balancing of the work. I have to assign the work. I have to schedule the job. If I want additional team members in my team, I'll do it. So all these tasks are being taken care by the manager. End of the day, the manager is responsible for smooth software delivery. Similar way, when your number of containers are increasing, to manage those containers, we have a tool called Kubernetes. So Kubernetes, in layman terms, it manages your containers. So technically speaking, we call it as container orchestration tool. And this Kubernetes is open source. Now the question is, hey, whether can't Docker do that? No, Docker can't do it. But instead of Docker, they bought in an alternative in their company itself, that is Docker Swarm. Docker Swarm is also a tool of Docker, which they use for orchestration. But as Kubernetes is open source, right, and which is free, it became very popular across the market. The Geo Cinemas, whatever you see, was also last year it was running on top of Kubernetes only for scalability, high availability, and everything. So Kubernetes is a container orchestration tool. It acts like a manager. It is totally open source, and you can install Kubernetes on Windows, Linux, on-prem, and cloud as well. Any cloud provider, can be AWS, Amazon, Azure, or whatever it is. And this Red Hat, right, Red Hat company, what they did is they took this open source Kubernetes, and on top of that, they have built their solution called Red Hat OpenShift. So as it is built on top of Kubernetes, whatever we learn in Kubernetes, the same things gets applied in OpenShift as well. So Red Hat OpenShift is also a Kubernetes based platform. So whatever we learn in DevOps, the same thing we will be learning in Red Hat OpenShift as well. Only thing is, when you purchase Red Hat OpenShift from Red Hat, there will be a support as well from them. They will be there to support you. So in case if you run into any issues, Red Hat will be there to support you. Got it? That's what Red Hat OpenShift does. In AWS, they took Kubernetes as a service, AWS EKS. So if you want a service, you can get it from them, but you have to pay for it. Same way for Azure Kubernetes service, Google Kubernetes engine, and all these, they are giving as a service. Okay, and you can install Kubernetes as a multi-node cluster. This is what we'll be talking about in the actual class. We will be able to set up a multi-node cluster. Node means VM. Okay, cluster means it's like I have a control plane and different worker nodes. All together, we call it as a cluster. A manager and team members, we call it as a team. Similar way, a master or control plane associated with the worker nodes, we call it as a cluster. So multi-node cluster concept for application high availability, scalability. If at all, if your application wants to run fine without any issues at all, high availability and scale it whenever required, there should not be any issues at all. Even when you update your application, there should not be any downtime. Even when you update your application, there should not be any downtime at all. In those cases, we go for the container orchestration tool called Kubernetes. Okay, got it everyone so far? Containers and Kubernetes, everyone able to follow so far? Clear?
Goms,
Yeah.
actually, a Docker Swarm is a distribution of Kubernetes, open source Kubernetes, right?
No, டாக்கர் அவங்களே இது பண்ணிக்கிட்டாங்க. ஓகே, இப்போ டாக்கர் வந்து அவங்க டாக்கர் கண்டெய்னர்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்ற மாதிரி
டாக்கர் ஸ்வாம் இல்லையா?
யா
அப்பதான் ஓபன் சோர்ஸ் குபர்னெட்டிஸ்ல அவங்க டாக்கர் வந்து டாக்கர் ஸ்வாம் பில்ட் பண்ணிக்கிட்டாங்க.
No. See, Kubernetes is all about it will manage the containers, not just Docker containers. See, there are, like for an example, I want a car. I can go for either MG, Kia, Honda, any of the car brand, I can go for it. So if you go for a container, you'll be having Docker containers, Container D containers, Creo containers, Podman containers. There are several container engines in the market. Got it? So Kubernetes initially was managing Docker containers, and after 1.24 version, now the default container engine is Container D. Container D. So Kubernetes is nothing but a container orchestration tool. It can be any container for that matter. அவன் என்ன சொல்றான்னா, நான் நிறைய கண்டெய்னர் வந்துருச்சா, உங்களை மேனேஜ் பண்ண முடியலையா, நான் மேனேஜ் பண்றேன். நீ டாக்கர் மூலமா கிரியேட் ஆன கண்டெய்னரா இருந்தாலும் சரி, கண்டெய்னர் டி மூலமா கிரியேட் ஆன கண்டெய்னரா இருந்தாலும் சரி, நான் ஒன்ன மேனேஜ் பண்றேங்கிறான். புரியுதா உங்களுக்கு?
அப்ப டாக்கர் ஸ்வாம் வந்து டாக்கர் கண்டெய்னர் மட்டும் தான் மேனேஜ் பண்ணும்.
Exactly, because that belongs to the Docker company itself.
Okay.
They build their own solution for orchestration, that is Docker Swarm.
Okay, but functionality will be same like Kubernetes. Adu orchestration level.
Exactly. But only thing is Kubernetes is so much advanced and it is open source. Their cluster strength is high for Kubernetes. Okay, as it is open source, several companies started contributing to Kubernetes, and that's where the features got increased to a lot. Able to follow?
Yeah.
Open source வெளியே விட்டோம்னா நிறைய கம்பெனிஸ் கான்ட்ரிபியூட் பண்ணதுனால அவனோட சொல்யூஷன் ரொம்ப ஸ்ட்ராங்கா இருந்ததுனாலதான் உலகத்துல எங்க போனாலும் Kubernetes யூஸ் பண்றாங்க. மெயினா பேங்கிங் செக்டார்ஸ்ல ஓபன் ஷிஃப்ட் பார்த்து போறாங்க. ஓகே, ஏன் அப்படின்னா ஏதாவது இஷ்யூ வந்ததுன்னா ஓபன் சோர்ஸ் Kubernetesக்கு உங்களுக்கு இஷ்யூ வரும்போது சப்போர்ட் பண்ண ஆள் இருக்க மாட்டாங்க. அந்த கம்பெனியில இருக்கவங்களால மட்டும்தான் ட்ரபிள் ஷூட் பண்ண முடியும். வேற யார்ட்டையும் நீங்க போய் கேட்க முடியாது. ஆனா ரெட் ஹேட் ஓபன் ஷிஃப்ட் போனீங்க அப்படின்னா ஏதாவது இஷ்யூஸ் வந்துச்சுன்னா ரெட் ஹேட் டிக்கெட் ரைஸ் பண்ணா வந்து ஹெல்ப் பண்ணிடுவோம். ஏன்னா நீங்க பே பண்ணிருப்பீங்க அவனுக்கு. புரியுதுல்ல? அது ஒன் ஆஃப் த மேஜர் ரீசன். கிளியர்?
Yeah.
Any other questions, anyone? Pavitra, Naresh, and there is a number which has joined. Then Pradeep asked, yeah, Lokesh. Great. Okay, guys. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. My team will be sharing the details on when actually we are starting the next batch, 85th batch. So they'll be sharing the details. You can get the details. Okay. And after the course, if someone knows DevOps already, you can join internship as well. Where an internship, we talk about the real-time customer requirement, and you have to perform directly. But there won't be any training as such in internship. It is directly assigning our client task so that you'll get a real-time exposure. So if you're totally new, first of all, you can join the training first. Okay, great. Thank you all for joining, guys. We'll meet again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.